So yeah, today we're going to talk about a bit about fitness, you know, and how it has affected my life, actually. So if you look at it, it's been around probably 8 years, I guess. I have been working out constantly, and it actually started from a very interesting story. So let's dive into the story, right? Yeah. So it all started when I was like 16 or 17, I guess. Probably younger than that, actually. Not even that. 14, I guess. Yeah. Started in school. So I was actually very fat. You won't believe it, actually. It's so fat. And, like when you're fat, you tend to be a good target. And of course, like as all targets are, like I was a specific target for bullying. And yeah, I was actually bullied in school because I was fat. And even though I was fat, I was actually good with people and, I was kind to them. But it didn't seem to affect them. Like they still were mean to me and rude to me. And back then, I'm trying to recall, I actually was very into this one sport, like football. Okay. And my favorite footballer was Ronaldo at that time. Yeah, because he was the epitome of fitness and the hard work and self-discipline and dedication towards the sport. And I really admired that. And that's where like my craze for football began, at a very young age. So I started playing football, near my house. There's a ground. I used to play football there. And not necessarily with people sometimes. I still like the sport that much. I still do like it. Yeah. So while I used to play football, it used to occur to me that, like this sport is so good and I really love this game. I want to get better at this. So, of course, like you're in school and you get to play in school as well, right? So there used to be something called as a recess period. So after a certain amount of classes, you used to get this time break where you can eat your food, like a lunch. And that time you could actually even play on the ground, the school ground, and actually do anything you want. So in my school, everybody used to just go on the ground and start playing. They used to even avoid the lunches, which they used to get from home. And I used to think that, I love the sport of football and I see these people playing. I want to play with them. I used to go down there and just stand there amongst the people who are already playing because, they're already established kind of set people who already play there in that time and every day, the routine. Everything was fixed. So for me, I used to always play alone near my house, sometimes with my, society friends, but never in school. So, a few times I'd ask them I want to play, and of course, they wouldn't let me play because I was fat, and even if they let me, their team wouldn't win, right? So it turned into a situation where you like the sport a lot, but you cannot get into it, You cannot even get to participate. So that's where it boiled down to. We're just actually given a chance to actually step up on the field. But you cannot because your exteriors determine the outcome of a decision. So there had been many moments where I used to go in the recess period, I used to just stand there and sometimes I used to get to play, but those times I used to mess up and I used to not play again. So that's what determined my value in football there. Because I was not a good player that time. Because of many reasons, like I couldn't run fast and I didn't have a good touch on the ball and no good sportsmanship and all those kind of things, which I was a novice to. So after that, I still had this love, which continued to like exponentially grow because I really love the sport, especially watching Ronaldo like score these kind of goals. Like I feel like, oh my god, like this guy is crazy, and yeah, you want to actually become like that person, right? Who can play and is that epitome of a sport which you love. So I would still not give up, still go to the recesses and try my options. Maybe I'll get to play and get to play. A few times I will get to play and not get to play, and after one point, I wasn't let to play. Because these people who let you play want their team to win, and we're kids that time. We just want to score and we want to win in the short period of time, which is like 30 minutes of recess. Yeah. So in the short amount of time, you need to actually get to play, and there are so many people there who want to play it. So why should you get the chance? Yeah. So that determined, like, actually, are you good at the game or not? Yeah. I would go home thinking that, like, this is never going to happen. You're not going to actually get to play anytime soon, or, even tomorrow. So, but the only time you get to play is at home, or somewhere nearby in the ground, society with groups of friends, and you'll be content with it. Yeah. So, going back to that time, there used to be also certain events, in my school, like sport events. They used to call it heats. And there should be this one day in the whole year where people used to come from everywhere, or just my school, where they will actually host sport events like hurdles, like different races, like relay, all these kind of events. So everybody used to compete against each other, and everybody had to participate in that in our school. And I was in like seventh grade, I guess, and I was really fat. I used to run, these kind of people every day, but there was nothing competitive, okay? Like, because in sport class, you run like with these people, right? Yeah. So when the sport heats used to come up, people used to run, participate in that, and used to compete against each other in hurdles and all that. So I remember, I really recall this one moment, all right? There used to be these races, all right? And I was participating in one of these races, and there are these 7 lineups where there are 7 people there and 7 people run when the whistle blows, right? So I remember I was on like one of the fourth lineup, and I had like my friends or like some other random people, besides me. And I remember like everyone was not particularly fit, but they are not as fat either, and some were like really fat, okay, like chubby, you can say that time. I had a pot belly and all that. So I used to feel like, like I had a chance. Maybe I can win at least this race. I can get to participate in this. And also now I remember that if you actually participate in one of these events, and if you qualify, like 3 or 4, you can get to participate like in the main event, which happens once in a year, again, at the end of the year. And if you win in that, you get a medal. So everybody used to be competitive, of course. So I remember I was in this 5th lane, and I was actually going to race these people who were not particularly fit. I thought I had a chance. So I waited for the whistle to blow. We all like locked in, geared up, and we were about to run. So the whistle blew. I recall like everybody running with me, and I was like one of the first people who actually sort of lead, you can say. So I was really excited and enthusiastic that time. And soon as like you're running with them, like in the heat of movement, adrenaline rushing through you, and you see like slowly one by one, like everybody is like going past you, and you see these unfit people who are not as fit as you go past you as well. And the best part about that was, of course, the enthusiastic part. But the worst part was these people were running in front of me, these children, like who were my age that time. They were running in front of me. They were not particularly fit. They looked back at me, And guess what they did? They laughed. Yes. They laughed at me just because, like, they were a bit faster than me, and, they were getting to win the race at the ending because they crossed me, kind of thing. And at that time, I realized, like, these people are looking down on me for some reason because they're a bit faster than me. And, that day I just decided that, no, like, these people who I consider, like, just like me in body terms are a bit faster than me, but they're looking down on me right now. No, I'm not going to take that. I decided that no ways, like, next time this is not going to happen. I thought that is extremely disrespectful to me, and I decided, like, we are not going to take disrespect. So I went back home. I made up my mind that, yeah, I want to play sport, the football sport. I don't want these people to looking down on me, like, when I'm running in the races. Not because, like, I'm slow, but just because they think that they're better than me. So I decided, like, yeah, let's go home. Let's plan out something and get better at it. So of course I love the sport football, right? I practiced that sport for a good amount of time every day, even at night. And eventually I got better at it. I would go, like, even at 4 a.m. in the morning with the ball in the ground and just shoot balls constantly on the ball just to improve my accuracy and do weird tactics, like step overs and all that, to actually become agile and use them subconsciously on the field itself without even thinking about it. Eventually, slowly, it was like around 6 months or 7 months down that practicing period where I was to play football constantly. And during that time, I also had a workout regimen which I planned out for myself, that I would just constantly work out day and in the morning and night as well, twice, and scrutinize my diet completely, with the protein intake and all that, calorie counting. Slowly and steadily, I started to lose weight. After losing a certain amount of weight, my body became a bit lighter, and it was a bit faster as well. I became quicker at doing what I was doing with my body, and it was much more easier for me to perform those skills which I had in football. Slowly and steadily, I started to get more opportunities as well in my school, in those recess periods, and I was actually playing better than before. I remember there was one time where I would actually just, play just randomly, and I will dominate these people on the field because I've become so better at it. But by practicing myself alone at home or like in my ground nearby home. So in school, I was dominating the sport because of that practice and working out my body and being disciplined. So I continued doing it, and eventually I kept getting better and better and better. And after a certain point, our school organized a school football team for the first time. And they held this group, what do you say? They formed a team. And for the first team, which was supposed to be formed, they invited certain people from the school. And I was one of them. So all these people were invited who play were invited, and they were going to be selected from these people, the team. So 11 members were going to be selected with 3 substitutes. Yeah. So in this big group of people, a certain amount of teams were separated and distinguished, and they were assigned like a certain team leader. So I was the team leader of a certain group. Okay, some 3 or 4 people. So it became like a 3-person or 4-person group, which would play against the other teams, and the winning teams will stay and the losing teams will go. That's how it was. So I clearly remember my team was winning in certain matches, and I remember like a few matches after that, other teams got disqualified, and some teams were merged. So I was merged with the final teams and the other team, which was actually winning in the final rounds. So it was like a final match kind of thing. And I remember that my team won at the end, and we were made to sit down. Some of the people were like told to leave in my team as well. And the final people, whoever in the final teams who were playing against each other, who got to sit down on the ground here. And the coach was actually removing some people from the field and telling them like, like you're not selected today, you're disqualified for whatever reason he had. And I was also made to sit on the field, and I was there with them. And we were all just curious, like what's going to happen now? Like, are you going to get on the team? And after he like disqualified few people, there was a moment where he paused, and he came and he told me like, Pranav, get up. And this time I was thought in my head, like, had this monologue, like it's over, like it's gone, like we are not going to be on the team anymore. We cannot play football in the school, I guess. And he said, Pranav, you are going to be the first football captain of the school team. So, and I was like shocked. What? Like me? I was like dazed off, like, like, is this real? I thought I was going to go, but that's how it was. And everybody started clapping who were there in the team and said congratulations to me. And the same people like who know you, like who were laughing at me when they were in that race, those people who later become better, but they still laughed at me that time. Those people congratulated me later for becoming the school first captain of the football team. Yeah, so we played a few matches and we won a few tournaments, and that was it. I became the first football captain of my school by actually putting in the hard work and discipline and actually going through the hard time of not being able to play football and staying fat or unhealthy. Transforming my body because I love the sport and getting opportunity to actually play was only a luxury when I actually worked on my body and made it, accessible to that luxury. So that's why I feel like fitness is so important in your life. Like, you don't realize it right now when you're unfit, but when you become fit, people look at you differently. People who bullied you will turn different towards you. The people who look down on you will turn different towards you later. They will become a different person. They will just act differently. They are a different personality to you. They show a different side of themselves, which you couldn't have seen, because that's the perspective change which happens when you change yourself. That was my love for my sport, football. Becoming the first football captain was really a shocking thing, which I didn't even expect. That was not the end goal. The end goal was just to play football and love the sport and maybe get on the team, but that was not really the goal. So actually self-improving yourself and putting the hard work in the thing which you love to do, you will realize that you will forget that it's actually hard after one point, because you really love it and constantly keep doing it. And you become so good at it, like people will recognize you for that. So yeah. Currently, like, I have been going to the gym, and even in university, I used to go to the gym. And the first time I went to the university, there were two gyms. One gym used to always be empty. And every time I used to go to the gym, hardly like 2 or 3 people used to come. And I used to think that why aren't people going to the gym anymore? Because they are uncomfortable, or like they never just went to the gym, or they're just comfortable being how they are. But for me, it was like I need to improve myself and I need to become better than before. I need to constantly push myself for that. Because it opens so many options, right? As I explained to you in the story of my childhood, inspirational story of becoming the football captain of my school. Yeah. And fitness actually gives you that luxury. It opens up doors, right? Another way to look at it is you're growing older, right? As you grow older, even your parents grow older. And because your parents are growing older, they are getting less flexible, they are losing muscle, they are losing strength. So they need a certain help after a certain age, right? And if you love your parents, you and as well as them need to become fitter, right? So that you can prolongate the fitness which is required at that age, probably at 80s or 85s or 70s itself. Fitness is so important. Like suppose like somebody's in a wheelchair, after a certain point, they need to be taken care of, right? So we can like actually help ourselves maintain our body and be educated and learn about certain diets to actually improve ourselves, to prolongate that healthiness in our body. And eventually we want to help the people around us as well, right? To become better, like how we change ourselves and form a small community about it. So yeah, that was a short story about my childhood. I hope you enjoyed it. And whatever you do, I hope that you incorporate fitness in your life, and never forget that it actually improves your health a lot. It makes you look younger as well. Your cells age a bit less. And even at the age of 60s. So, another short story. I went to a gym recently in Mumbai, and there was a 60-year-old guy there. 60-year-old American guy who was much, much buffer than me, fitter than me, and more flexible than you can imagine. I went up to him and I asked him, like, what is the secret? How do you maintain your body at this age? And he tells me that he has been working out since 20, and he looks so much younger than his brothers who are like 70 and 60s, 5s, and they look 20 years older than him. And he's just here to actually keep doing the thing which he has been doing since 20 years and maintain his body. So you can just see like how fitness has actually improved this guy's life and has made him 20 years younger than how he looks. And I wouldn't have thought he's 60 years until I asked him. I thought he was like probably 40 or 35. But he's 60 years old and he's still working out, like doing the hardest sets. It's crazy, right? So yeah, fitness has changed people's life so much. And after a certain point, you do lose flexibility. So keep doing this yoga stretches and gym workouts and cycling and running and whatever you feel that's healthy for you at whatever age. And never stop doing it. Because once you stop doing it, you'll fall back to your old ways and you'll forget the greatness which fitness actually gave you.